welcome back for another episode of A Bigger Bite, where we take a deeper dive into the movies and TV series just in our pop culture sphere today. Once again, I am Matt, and today on this panel, of course, we got Amaru, we got Nick, but we got one of my Watt co-hosts right here, and Geoff Alterman. Geoff, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. It's nighttime, so how am I doing tonight? Great.
How you doing, Amaru?
You see the background. It's not normal. It's late. But we're here for a amazing show, giving away what I think about it.
Yes. How you doing, Nick?
Oh, things really went poorly for me and Rue in sports tonight, so I would much rather talk about film and television.
Yes.
Wow. I see how it is. My day's going swimmingly because a certain trailer dropped today. Just it was great. It was great. It was what the character should be. But anyways, let's not talk about that. Let's dive into the studio, which has already been renewed for its second season. Got renewed, like I want to say, what was 2 weeks ago?
A week or two ago, yeah. At the time of this recording.
Yeah. And that would be about with 3 or 4 episodes left in the season at that point. So kudos to them. Well deserved. I was really afraid that this show would be so niche that it wouldn't get a second season. This right now is my top television series of the year. I put Andor at my number 2, but yeah, I just thought this perfectly, especially for people like us who follow the Hollywood sphere, this perfectly captured all the bullshit and whatnot that we go behind this, that we know goes on behind the scenes, and one of us on this panel may experience every so often. So what were your guys' thoughts? We'll start with you, Nick.
Okay, so I've heard from a lot of people who work in the restaurant industry how much anxiety The Bear gives them, to the point that it almost becomes an uncomfortable watch. As someone who spends a fair amount of time on film sets, that was this for me. The level of cringe and anxiety, I'm sure we'll get more specific into certain episodes, but the one taker where he goes onto the film set, I believe it's episode 2.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
is more painful than any horror film I've seen this year. It is uncomfortable in such a realistic sense. That I think there is just so much well done about this that Seth Rogen seems to have kind of found his niche in Apple, because he did Platonic. That also got a second season.
Great fucking show.
And it's like they've kind of hit how to best utilize him now when he's out of like his knocked up era. And I think it's the best work that Seth Rogen has done is what he's doing on Apple right now.
I'd actually agree with that. Rue, what did you think?
You all keep bringing up niche. Apple TV in itself is niche because nobody is fucking watching it for some fucking reason. They need to. It
is the best streaming service out there, quality-wise. Just almost everything hits.
And then also, you bring up restaurant industry. It's how I felt when I watched the first episode of Abbott Elementary and couldn't watch it for a whole fucking 2 months being a teacher. Like, and I was watching and stress watching and anxious watching the studio, not into it, not in the industry. I mean, I love this. The fact that you bring up the oneer, what I was more surprised about watching the rest of the season, I love the fact that damn near every episode is about like 10 oneers in a row, because it's like 45 to a minute and a half long takes, flubs and all, and they just go. They between improv and scripted and where they're going. I'm just like, I'm in awe of the filmmaking aspect of it and how just wonderfully put together the show is, and how great the script is with the cast that you have, and the fact that like you don't have cameos, you have actual guest stars of people playing themselves in some of the best like self-playing roles I've ever seen. I absolutely love it. She was crazy great. I loved Anthony Mackie in it. I actually loved, I think if I had to pick a favorite, it might be Sarah Pauly. It might be her in that one episode just going absolutely like criminally wanting to kill Seth Rogen even though it's not Seth Rogen. It's just I absolutely love the show, and it's something that, of course, everybody is loving because we're doing a podcast talking about this shit. So it has its audience and it's fucking huge.
Geoff, what were your thoughts on the first season overall?
I think this is a show that you watch and you're like, man, like Seth and Evan are so far up their own ass, and it's fine because it's all so good. It pays off. It's just wildly entertaining, and it is super niche. But also, I think that it's not so inside baseball that it's not accessible. A lot of it's like just general, like we're not in the industry, some of us, and like we just watch movies a lot, but it's the same thing. It's just like that's the kind of job it is, and it makes fun of so many things in such like a smart, incisive way. And I do got to say, like, this just adds on to the list of like, one of Seth Rogen's best creative partners. Even if it's just a guy appearing in one episode, project's good. If he's working with Nick Stoller, he's got neighbors, he's all that stuff, and now it's this. Like, yeah, I love it. It's probably my favorite show of the year so far as well. Yeah.
Rue, you talked about on the guest. Listen, the reason I love the Olivia Wilde's part in her episode so much is she's literally taking jabs at herself from the "Don't Worry, Darling" stuff that came out, the rumors in the news of "Don't Worry, Darling," and I was like, listen, to be able to take jabs at yourself like that, it's fucking great. Like, I don't know if it adds to the speculation that stuff was true, but at least I know Seth has talked about how they've gotten so many calls. Like, was this episode about me? Was like just from people around the industry? And he's like, holy shit. No, this is just general shit that we've come up with, and it seems like the industry this show has a stranglehold on the industry and a pop culture sense, but also the industry itself feels very seen, I guess is the best way to put it.
When you have one of your first guest starring appearances is fucking Scorsese being able to make fun of himself, be able to make, he was the one who was going to do Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah. And they were going to turn it into the Jones.
It's fucked up.
It's fucked up, but it sounded like a good ass fucking movie. And then him going off like
everything.
And that's the beginning. You don't think you can like get better than that, and it does. Geoff and Nick, because we mentioned ours. What if you had to pick a favorite guest star, real life guest star?
There's so many to choose from. Like it really is hard. Like from this specific moment right now, I'd probably pick between surprisingly Parker Finn, which just a hysterical one there where they're just mocking his own movie at the same time, and he's totally fine with it. But also Ron Howard. People forget that Ron Howard was also an actor. He still even acted as like voiceover stuff with Arrested Development, even though he's mostly a director. But he's so funny in this. He can't take any kind of criticism at all. It's great.
Yeah, it's the same for me. It's Ron Howard. I think the thing that this show really does well is they either give you a version of the person that is so far removed from who they are with like the Ron Howard character, or they give you a version of the person that is exactly who you expect them to be, like Dave Franco's character.
Yes.
And I think the fact that they flip between the two, the fact of seeing Ron Howard be this asshole is by all accounts not who he is. He is this mild-mannered, quiet, calm guy, versus like Dave Franco flying off the handle is kind of who a lot of us expect him to be, especially with what we've seen with his family members. So
Ice Cube, who's definitely just like Ice Cube.
Yeah. So I think that them doing
Ice Cube kind of plays Ice Cube in all movies, and it works. So even playing himself, it's like it shows. Put Ice Cube on the screen, and you got a hit probably, or at least something entertaining.
But I think the fact that they don't always go in the opposite direction, and they don't always go exactly to who they expect them to be, is why the cameos stick out so much in this series, almost more than any other show I can think of, because they've made characters out of who they are, and that's something you could only do in this environment, and they take full advantage of it.
Yeah, totally agree. I do gotta say, excuse me. One episode,
What's going on?
one episode that stuck out to me, and I know it stuck out for Rue too, because I got a message right as he was watching it, and he's like, "It's episode 6, the pediatric oncologist." And he's like, "I'm glad he did what he did, right?" Like
those doctors were fucking assholes.
The doctors were assholes.
Just condescending, dismissive of anything else as like there's no reason why something can or can't be entertainment. Like they're dismissing the whole art form rather than the idea that something juvenile could still be entertaining in some way.
Yeah,
and it's hilarious because freaking Matt Remick, Seth Rogen's character, he's a fucking asshole. He's an idiot and an asshole, and you made him seem.
But he's also
like
so lovable because
he is lovable at the same time.
Because he wants to do the right thing, but he just
can't, and keeps freaking.
Matt Remick is just if Seth Rogen did Adderall instead of smoked weed.
Yeah, but I definitely texted. I was like, Seth Rogen's in the right? Like these doctors are completely out of bounds here, right? He shouldn't be fucking them up, right? Okay, cool.
Like I remember, I was like, okay, because I had already been done for like a week or two at that point, and Rue was outside of Geoff, the first person I could talk to about it. I'm like, okay, so so people feel the same way. This makes me feel so much better about this episode. But I like each episode, I think personally to me, the war was the weakest episode of the season, where it's Chase Sue Wonder's character going up against
Ike Barinholtz.
It's still a lot of fun though.
It's so fun. I'm not saying it's bad.
It's a kill your darling statement. Yeah.
I'm just saying, out of all 10 episodes that we get, I felt like that was the weakest one for me. The last 4 episodes are just straight fucking gas, though.
Just like gas. Man, you're all talking about all this stuff. You're talking about Seth Rogen. All I'm thinking in my head right now is like, and I'd also like to thank Sal Saperstein.
Yes. That bit was hilarious. Zoe Kravitz in general in that episode was hilarious.
Zoe Kravitz in the last 3 episodes is hilarious.
She's someone who is just a great version caricature of herself. And so different from the kind of person that you expect would have the voice behind Blink Twice.
Yes. I gotta say the casting episode was just fantastic. Because I feel like that is what casting goes that even I'm like, do they realize they cast a black guy as a Kool-Aid guy? And then everybody's like, oh, you don't want to cast a black guy as a Kool-Aid guy? What the fuck is wrong with you? It should be a black man. And I was just like, oh, it challenged me. It challenged my beliefs a little bit that episode. I'm like, this is actually really fucking poignant and good and hilarious at the same time. I think
that's the only time, because they kept just digging themselves into a deeper and deeper hole of trying not to offend somebody, that if this is the one time you say something like woke and I'm like, you're kind of making sense here. That's it. That's the one time. The fact that they can intelligently poke fun at stuff like that, but also bring to light how it the people who are yelling it's ridiculous at the stupidity when it's not, and it's no, there are points when this is ridiculous. Here it is, but it still makes a point. It makes you think, and that's why I extremely love this show. On top of the fact, flip it from the cameos, the cast of people in the show that aren't playing themselves, that could easily play themselves. Catherine O'Hara has just been having the biggest last couple of fucking years. Catherine Hahn is great. I will say, as much as I love him, I could have done without Bryan Cranston.
Yes.
I could have. That was the one part I was
really enjoyed him. I think it would have been interesting if maybe it was an actor that maybe a slightly different actor. It feels like Bryan Cranston in that role feels a bit like a stunt cast type. Another thing that he does share the same name as Tim Robbins' character from The Player, who this show heavily is indebted to. It would have been interesting if they had ever tried to be like, oh, actually, this is somehow a continuation there, and that's the character, make it Tim Robbins. But maybe someone that feels a little less like a stunt casting character there, because I love Bryan Cranston so much. I think he is great here. I do think that this is almost like the, what do you mean, like, right in the third act there suddenly George Clooney appears in Thin Red Line. Now I'm just distracted at this Hollywood actor here, that this big TV actor here is amongst everyone.
Yeah. No, I can agree
I
with
still
that.
love it though. Like
I enjoyed
it's a
him, yeah.
mild criticism.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed him, but I think you're absolutely right, because Bryan Cranston is, I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching, I'm like, I feel like I'm just watching Hal from Malcolm in the Middle if he had money.
And a lot of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he probably still also had a lot of drugs in that show, just
Yes, he
with
did.
money. So you were right with your first statement.
But yeah, so I totally agree and understand. I would agree. Out of all of the out of all the actors, that's probably, even though he was still good, and that's saying something. Still good, probably my weakest link.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But also, like, he is more of a guest character too, so it's like not it's not that impactful to have that sort of thought. Yeah,
that's fair. Also, shout out to CinemaCon for giving the studio the time of day on their social media today.
Oh man,
I was dying at that. No, but let's talk about that. When I think, even though it played on separate weeks for us, it essentially, since we had the screener copies, it essentially worked as a 2-part finale. What did you guys think of that 2-part finale?
I liked it a lot. I think Zoe Kravitz was definitely the star of it. Mm-hmm. It's funny, I mentioned Ron Howard, but if I'm not going to go piggybacking on one of Jeff's, like, to me, Zoe Kravitz would be the other standout in this show. But I thought it was a good way to end it. And the great thing about the show is, with it being renewed, it's not something where it feels like they didn't go to the Oscars or something like that. Like, they didn't go to what would have been your best spot for a series finale. It feels like there's so much more room to take this, which is what I like. I like that they closed it in a way that there is still story to tell.
No, and I think there's ways they can continue the storylines, because, like, you can easily have him go to set for Zoe's big superhero movie. You can easily have, let's say, Kool-Aid fails, and you can have the fallout of, this was supposed to be a big hit. What do we do now? Oh shit, am I on the chopping block now because of this? And then have it be like the situation Warner's had this year, where Mickey 17 failed, and it's like, oh shit, are DeLuca and Abdi are on the chopping block, and then back-to-back unexpected hits with Minecraft, which everyone thought was going to fail, and then Sinners.
I don't think fail is the word.
A lot of people before it came out thought Minecraft was going to fail.
No. You're just talking about it maybe from a creative standpoint, but financially, it was never like in danger of anything more than like being like an all-right sized hit, just barely profitable. The fact that it blew up, that's a totally different conversation. This is dumb. Let's keep talking. Yeah.
But you get my point. Like, it's there are easily avenues that you can pick up as continuing threads from this first season.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'll say, like, the only reason why I didn't like mention like Zoe Kravitz earlier is one of my favorites is, I don't think she's like even a cameo. She's in 3 episodes, so I consider her like a recurring guest character. I think that it's a pretty fantastic, like, super Birdman-y final 2 episodes. It's just it's anxiety inducing, and it's exciting, and it does feel like the Griffin Mill also being all fucked up. Like, it's very funny. It does feel a touch like it's a hat on a hat, because they have Zoe Kravitz also super fucked up. But they are 2 very different kinds of characters, and the way that they react are very different. But I do, like I said, hat and hat a little bit, going back to that Griffin Mill criticism. But otherwise, I think it's so funny, and just everything they try to do to make Vegas be like, oh, a Vegas party, and all the ways it backfires. Like, the moment that he starts doing that everything's going to go wrong. Yes. And it does, and it does spectacularly. Yeah. And just like any classic thing like that, it's like, oh, he's able to turn it all around at the end. And it's like, yeah, you get this super triumphant, feel-good moment. But at the same time, it's like, great, now what? Like, this is just, like, as we all know, CinemaCon is just a presentation of product you have. Just showing that they want to show it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Like, they still have to succeed. They haven't really done anything.
Yeah, I was actually say, in the finale was probably the weakest episode for me. Still good, but I think what I loved about, and I'm gonna go back to the anxiety. What I loved most about the show is I had no clue what was gonna happen. Like, I was so anxious, and then I think I was like this for about 50% of the entire runtime. And with the final 2 episodes, while funny, while zany, while had just over the top, it was probably the most predictable part for me. I knew it was coming. I knew what was happening. I was like, okay, he's gonna get fucked up. He's gonna go walking. They're gonna try to go find him. I did love the ending of the first part with Catherine O'Hara trying to stick it to Griffin. That I really liked. But I could see it coming. So for me, I would say it landed on I'm not gonna say a downturn because I had a damn blast, but it was like, all right, this is they're landing the plane now. They're trying to cool it down, make sure they don't leave anything unfinished, and it's not the heights of the rest of it. I will say the way Dave Franco just like flipped that switch for his presentation and then went to the hospital was a fucking highlight.
He's so good. He's so good. Oh man, I think that people just in general, when it comes to Dave Franco, I think that he's a fairly underrated performer, and he's, at least even if he's not totally successful with it, he's really interesting behind the camera with what he wants to do. This early stuff, he's great.
Well, and by all accounts, Together has the potential
Very
to change a lot of people's minds about him.
Cool. After its lawsuit, maybe. No, Nick, your final thoughts on this?
No, like it's funny because I almost feel like I say what I've said what I need to say. It is the Bear for film people. That is what it is, and you can immerse yourself in it. It works if you have no affiliation with obviously the industry, but you can immerse yourself in it. These characters all feel real and lived in, and also a studio exec being an incompetent guy, which is what Matt basically is, works. If he was really great at his job, like
I caught that too, Matt. I was like, "Is he talking about you?" No, never mind.
Yes.
No,
That's
but like
exactly.
he doesn't. Like it's silly to say it, but this is an adult version of the Pixar show Dream Productions.
I actually had the exact same thought because that was actually a really good show. Y'all should watch it because it is a kid version of it, and it actually delivers very, very fucking well.
Even with like the assistant that wants to direct her on her own, like it's all, there's a lot to this that works with that. But it just, the one thing I will give Apple credit to that I will say really does put them above for me as a streamer is there's an authenticity to their shows that I just don't feel consistently across Prime, Netflix, even Max sometimes. That
HBO Max. It's back to its name.
HBO Max, sorry. That whether or not it's a good series, it always feels like true to what it is supposed to be. And I really like that about Apple shows.
It doesn't,
like I said,
they don't feel homogenized compared to like Netflix, for a huge example. Yeah, I get exactly what you mean.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I'm down to see season 2. I'm also down to see a third collaboration with Seth Rogen because they're 2 for 2 right now. So
listen. Well, you need to slow down with the stuff. I don't need 2 years in between or multiple years in between each of these seasons. These 2 are fine. It's been like 2 years since Platonic, and we're still waiting on season 2. So, like, slow your roll there, sir.
It's coming though. But I'd have to agree. This show was just I couldn't put it down. 30-minute episodes are perfect. And like I was just running through them, and anytime I had to stop, I was just like, damn, I want to get back to it. So I'm really excited. I cannot wait to see. I feel like the industry is going to be clamoring to get on this show now. Any actor or director is just be like, yo, write a part for me. So I can't wait to see who they actually get to play themselves. I can't wait to see who they actually cast to play fictional characters as well, because they just do all of that to a T. So I really enjoyed it.
Geoff, your final thoughts?
I love this show. I think that it's just a really genius bit of showbiz satire. It's the most simplified way to say it is, it's Birdman meets the player. A little bit of uncut gems in there, a little bit of all that anxiety that you're talking about. But it's just super funny. It's super intelligent as well, while still being able to Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, they've grown up. We still think that stuff like Superbad it can be really funny. It's aged way better than a lot of other teen comedies like that have been, but it's still super juvenile but it's able to be juvenile in a way that speaks to that generation that it's targeting, that the story is about, that makes it feel smart. And here it's that same tone of juvenile stuff with a little bit more of that anxiety, and it feels more mature. You could tell that it's from the same voice, but it's serving a different purpose, and it does it just as well here.
I would agree with that. And I think for me, part of the reason why I love this is because I'm very much in the same camp as Matt, the character Matt Remick, where he wants to make movies for people who love film. He wants to make actual art, and he feels like he's getting the chance to do it. It's like, no, you have to make product content. And it's just like, yeah, that's what it feels like, especially even doing the stuff that we do, where it's like, I would love to be able to just make shorts on shorts on shorts and have people watch them, but I need to put out trailer reactions and this, that, and the other to get people to build the audience to take those shots. And that's why it's like, all right, this is kind of even relatable in this sense. So I loved it. I love everything it stood for. I love calling Hollywood out. I love calling Hollywood out on its own bullshit and just having a good time with it. So
yeah, one last thing just to say there, as we see through the show as well, just the idea of trying to make some sort of movie or some sort of production, it's not ever done by one single person. There are so many different people, the teams that go behind it. It's so intricate, and so I just want to point out also cinematographer Adam Newport Barra. He does some just outstanding work, especially the Warner and whatnot, but just in general, the camera use, I think it's film, and just the grain on the screen and just the use of color with it, and it's got this great looking aesthetic that really just hits home. And then also Eric Kissack, he's the editor of the show as well. Him and the way it's shot and directed and edited, just in tandem, it really it makes the show have this beat that you just want to keep experiencing.
Absolutely. Well, as always, folks, you can find those two right here on Bitesize Breakdown and a bigger bite with their reviews and just doing the whole podcast thing. Geoff, where can the good people find you?
Here. In this chair.
My
Twitter, GEOFF1106. That's where I am almost all the time.
And What Real Entertainment.
That as well. You were gonna plug the whole thing. We don't need to both do it. It's overkill. It's redundant.
Fair. And as always, you can find me at What Real Entertainment. I should have a review for Mission Impossible up this Thursday. However, Jeff's is already up, so you can go check that out right now. With that, folks, signing off. I'm Matt. That was Geoff. That is Amaru, and that is Nick. And this was another Bigger Bite. We'll see you next time.
Peace.